Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, today I'm going to go over some gun safety rules. Now, before we get started, just so you know, I carried a badge from 1984 to 2017. We went through a lot of training, qualified at least every 6 months. Every time we qualified, bam, more training. So training has been pounded into my head for a lot of years, so I'm hoping to pass some of that knowledge on to you guys. So we're going to go over 4 basic gun safety rules, and then we're going to go over some other stuff you might find interesting. And then I'm going to talk about the time I failed to follow my own safety rules and I ended up shooting myself. So you might find that a little interesting. So let me show you what I got right here. This is just a plastic pistol, okay? This is an airsoft made out of plastic. It's got batteries. I'm going to use this in this video, and it's unloaded, but again, it is just an airsoft. In fact, here's the magazine for it. And it does take batteries, and it is recoil operated, or it does that. But I'm going to add a sound effect to this just to give this video a more realistic look. So instead of hearing this, you're going to hear this. Okay, so you know what? Let's get started. Safety rule number 1. All guns are always loaded. Okay, let me say that again. All guns are always loaded. You know, if I go to my buddy's house and he's got a new gun sitting on the coffee table and he says, hey, check out my new pistol, it's unloaded. I'm not going to pick that gun up and just start waving it around and assume it's unloaded. No, I'm going to take the magazine out, I'm going to lock the slide back, and I'm going to verify that pistol is unloaded. You know, a lot less people would be shot if everybody treated every gun as if it was loaded. So again, safety rule number 1 is
all guns are always loaded.
Thank you, audience. Safety rule number 2, and to me this is probably the most important one, and that is keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on target. How many times have you seen somebody shoot their pistol, they get done, and they're doing this? Or they have it down by their side and they still have their finger on the trigger. I'll tell you what, between this right here and this is what gets a lot of people hurt. Keep your finger off your trigger until your sights are on target. Okay, son, you gonna shoot my new pistol?
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, what do you think of that beauty, huh?
I like it, really accurate. I was shooting at a rock about 40 yards out. I hit it both times.
Well, maybe I'll try it.
Give it a shot.
Okay, safety rule number 3. Never let your muzzle cover anything you're not willing to destroy, okay? Very important lesson. Always make sure you know where your muzzle is pointed, okay? I'm going to give you a good example here. There's a video on YouTube, and I couldn't find it this morning. If I can find it, I'll throw it in here. But there's a security camera inside a indoor shooting range, and it shows a couple of guys standing there, and one guy is shooting, okay? And his gun jams up, and he's sitting there, and he's doing this, pushing on it. And I'm watching that, and I'm thinking, oh, please, don't do that. Anyways, he's doing this, and gun goes off, shoots himself in the hand. You can see blood dripping. And that guy, he failed all 3 safety rules, okay? All guns are always loaded. Keep your finger off the trigger. Make sure your muzzle's pointed in a safe direction. He violated all 3 of those, and he paid a heavy price. Can you imagine putting a bullet through your hand? You're gonna damage muscle. You're gonna take out bone. You're gonna take out tendons, veins, maybe an artery. That hand, I'm sure, will never ever be the same for that guy. So let's move on to safety rule number 4. Safety rule number 4. Be sure of your target and what's around it and what's behind it, okay? You're responsible for every single round that you fire. If you hit an innocent target in the background, you know, you have to live with that for the rest of your life. So be sure of your target and what's behind it. Let me give you a good example. Back in 1975, I was a teenager, and my buddy and I, we ran up to southern Utah to do some rabbit hunting. And we're using .22 rifles, and we're walking in the sagebrush. Now, my buddy, he can see me, but he's right here. There's a rabbit right here, and I'm right here. What does he do? He shoots that rabbit, the bullet bounces off the ground, bam, hits me in the right leg. Fortunately, it was only a .22, but it felt like somebody kicked me. Anyways, he drives me into the hospital in Cedar City, and they took an x-ray, gave me a tetanus shot. The doctor said that bullet went right between a vein and an artery, so that was very lucky. He also said, I'll do more damage cutting that bullet out than if we just leave it in there. It's not going to hurt anything. I said, okay. So, 46 years later, I still have that bullet in my leg. So, be sure of your target, what's around it, and what's behind it. Okay? All right, let's move on to something else. Okay, let me tell you another quick story here. Back in 1983, I was pretty young. I was in my mid-20s, and I had my oldest son out with me, and we were doing a little shooting with my .22 pistol. And he was shooting my pistol, and I'm taking pictures of him. And when we got done, I reached over and I grabbed a pistol from him, and I pointed it down and away from him, and I passed him my camera. Well, when he grabbed my camera, my gun went off, okay? That bullet hit me just below my left knee. Fortunately, it was just a flesh wound. Ran into the hospital, they cleaned it out, gave me a tetanus shot, and they left it open so it could drain. I don't know how many safety rules I violated, but it was probably most of them. Anyways, I'm going to show you a picture of that leg wound. It's kind of graphic, so if you don't want to look, I'm just going to show it for a few seconds, but I'll give you a notice when I show it. But it went under the skin for about an inch and then popped out, and it looks pretty gnarly. So I'm going to show that picture to you in 3, 2, 1. Okay, you can look now. So, I don't know what to say, guys. I debated whether or not to even put this section or this segment on this video, but you know what? This is a safety video. I think it's probably very important that, you know, if you can learn from my mistakes, even though it was almost 40 years ago, it was a big mistake. Hopefully, if you can learn from it, then I feel like it should be in this video, okay? Okay, just to add to this part where I just shot myself in the leg, besides breaking those safety rules, I was also distracted, okay? So being distracted when you're shooting can cause a lot of problems. Let me give you another example. I worked with a guy, back when we worked security, we had qualification coming up, so my buddy, he decided he would do some dry firing while on duty, in uniform, and at the time, he's carrying a .45, okay? Now, we carried our pistols fully loaded, round in the chamber, loaded magazine. Anyways, he was in a building, and he unloaded his pistol, and he started to dry fire. And there was a map of the United States on the wall, and he's sitting there, you know, dry firing and getting some practice in. Something that pretty much we all did. Well, anyways, he heard a vehicle pull up, so he loads up his gun and puts it in his holster. Supervisor comes in, they chit-chat a little bit. Supervisor leaves. My buddy gets back up there, pulls out his pistol, and put a .45 caliber hole right through the state of Kansas. He was suspended for 90 days. What happened was he got distracted, forgot he had a loaded gun, violated how many safety rules? Bam, had an accidental discharge. So, if you're going to dry fire, make sure, one, there's no ammo anywhere in the area. Do your dry firing, be very safe about it, use a lot of common sense, and then when you get done, you're done. Stop, don't dry fire anymore, okay? If you get distracted and you go back to dry firing, there's a good chance you're going to have an accident, okay? So, dry fire, very good, I recommend it. I have dry fired tens of thousands of times. Never had a problem. Use some common sense. If you get distracted, stop dry firing, okay? Let's talk about a revolver. Hey son, swing around there. Zoom in on that jackrabbit. See him? Yeah. Okay. My little buddy. All right, take two. So you just bought a revolver, okay? And maybe you've never shot it. Maybe never shot a revolver before. So I want to go over safety real quick. Now, in front of the cylinder here, between the barrel and the cylinder, there's a very small gap right here, okay? Now that gap, you want to make sure you don't put your finger anywhere near that, okay? Because you're going to get a lot of gas shooting out when I fire this, or when you fire a revolver, a lot of pressure comes out. So if you have your hand up here, or even right here, you're going to get some flash burn. This 357 Magnum cartridge, when I fire this, it's going to produce up to 35,000 pounds per square inch. That's a lot of pressure, and a lot of it is going to shoot out. And again, don't have your hand up here, okay? I'm going to set this up and show you a demonstration. Okay, I have one 357 Magnum round loaded in my Ruger here. I'm going to take a piece of paper and I'm just going to be very careful here. Now watch what happens to that paper when I fire this. Yeah, you do not want your hand up here, okay guys? Let's talk about a hang fire, okay? You're shooting, everything's going fine, all of a sudden your pistol goes click or makes a funny pop, okay? First thing you want to do is keep it downrange for 10 seconds. You might have a what we call a hang fire. That primer got hit, but it might not go off for half a second, maybe 3 or 4 seconds. A lot of videos on YouTube showing hang fires, and they can be very serious. Your gun goes pop, you're sitting here looking at it, and all of a sudden it goes off. Could be a very dangerous situation. So again, if you have a problem, keep it downrange 10 seconds, take out the magazine, lock back the slide, check your pistol, check the bore, make sure there's not a bullet stuck in there. If everything looks okay, you can probably continue to fire, but anything doesn't sound right, stop shooting, okay? Wait 10 seconds, clear the pistol, and see if you can figure out what the problem was, okay? Okay, let's talk about reholstering your pistol, because a lot of people, new shooters, will screw up and shoot themselves in the leg when they reholster. So my son's going to do a couple of scenarios here. So watch this one here where he holsters correctly. Now keep an eye on his trigger finger. Okay, now he's going to holster incorrectly, and he's going to have his finger on the trigger. Watch what happens. Ouch. Okay? Remember, when you holster, keep your finger off of that trigger. Remember safety rule number 2? Finger off that trigger until your sights are on target. All right. Okay, in regards to shooting a semi-auto pistol, I want to go over something real quick. Now this is unloaded, no magazine. Every time you shoot a semi-auto like this, that slide comes back, okay? When it comes back, it ejects the empty case and it chambers a new round into the chamber. But be aware, when that slide comes back, you do not want to put your thumb up here, okay? Because when that slide comes back, good chance it's going to slice your thumb open. So, no thumb and no part of your hand in the back here, okay? If you're going to shoot two-handed, which I do a lot, I use this area right here for the palm of my offhand. I put it right there, and bam, I'm ready to shoot. I keep my thumb away from my slide, and again, do not put it back here, okay? You know, if you've gone through a firearm safety course, you know, these safety rules, they might have been given to you in maybe a different order, maybe a little different wording, but it all means the same thing. Just pay attention, use a lot of common sense. Remember, all guns are always loaded. Keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on target. Never allow your muzzle to cover anything you're not willing to destroy. And be sure of your target and what's behind it, okay? Remember those 4 things, plus a few other little things we went over today, and you guys ought to do pretty good. Gonna hang it up, but we do thank you for watching our video, and subscribe, check out Patreon, and we'll see you guys next time. Yeah.